Hey sis, welcome or welcome back to the channel. I am the Black Woman essayist, the creator and founder of Notes on Black Women on Substack. So let me ask you a quick question. Do you think there's a cost to calling black girls mature or seeing them as more responsible? In my view, there is a cost, and this cost is way too expensive. The question came to me after I read a study called Girl Interrupted, the Erasure of Black Girls' Childhood, I believe. I will link it in the description box for you below. This essay looked at how society looks at black girls compared to white girls of the same age, what the expectations are, and me, being me, naturally I questioned that further and said, well, how does this translate to our community and culturally for black girls and black girls who then go on to be black women? Take a listen to this week's essay. Everything is timestamped below. And before you get into it, let me give you a little heads up about this article that I actually wrote. It was published in Carefree magazine. And if you want to skip this part, you can, timestamps below. But let me tell you a little bit about this magazine for black women. Carefree magazine is currently published over on Substack where I write. Now, I pitched to them, they commissioned this article, and it was published there just this week at the time of me recording this. I will link in the description box the actual article that's over on their publication, so you can go and view that. But I would encourage you to take a look at their magazine and possibly consider joining them as a free subscriber, because they caught my eye probably back in, it could have been around February time or March time of this year, 2026, because they have just published, or they will be publishing, an anthology of black women writers from around the world, and this anthology is called Bloom. Now, it caught my eye for two reasons. Firstly, because I have a summer program that I had in mind that I was going to call Black Women in Bloom, and secondly because of the content, like getting to hear stories, reading essays, and reading the work of other black women writers throughout the diaspora really intrigued me. Now, at the time we're recording this, I believe that the book is still on pre-order. I will drop a link in the description box if you want to take a look at it, if you're interested. But failing that, I would definitely say check out Carefree magazine, and a big shout out to them, and thank you very much for commissioning this article and allowing me to write for you. Okay, so let's jump into it. I will catch you on the other side and see you at the end for my final commentary. There's something about black girlhood that gets distorted, reframed, removed from its innocence. Have you noticed? Calling black girls mature isn't a compliment. It signals a belief that they deserve less protection. But rarely do we stop and ask what that belief costs. Black girls are praised for always being there, for being responsible. We applaud the child who never complains about doing something on their own, the child who helps raise her siblings, the child who acts older, in quotation marks. We mistake coping, responsibility, or even the feeling of obligation for maturity. In a 2017 study, Girlhood Interrupted, the Erasure of Black Girls' Childhood, and I will leave this in the description box for you if you are on YouTube to take a look at. A research study was carried out by the Centre on Gender Justice and Opportunity at Georgetown Law. They found that black girls are viewed differently to white girls of the same age. They researched the opinions of adults from a cohort of a diverse group of races, ethnicities, backgrounds, and educational levels, and they found that adults tend to agree that black girls, when compared to white girls of the same age, need less. By this, they meant black girls need less nurturing, black girls need less protection, black girls need less support, black girls need to be comforted less. These adults did hold opinions that black girls do have more in certain areas, like black girls are more independent, black girls know more about adult topics, and black girls know more about sex. Notably, 74% of the participants in this study who held these viewpoints about Black girls were white and 62% were female. Now, when we consider the impact white women's tears have historically and presently still do have on Black girls and women, these numbers aren't really surprising. The question is, does this external devaluing of Black girls found in this study transfer to the Black community? Meaning, what is the cultural cost of seeing and calling Black girls mature, in quotation marks, or more responsible, in quotation marks, at a young age? And how does this compare to Black boys who culturally tend to be seen as less mature and typically hold less responsibility than girls? From Black girlhood to womanhood. There's a long-standing cost when Black girls are perceived in this light. It does not stop at Black girlhood, as this mark of maturity is carried well into Black womanhood. I remember as a young teen being expected to care for my niece and nephew, not for an hour, not for an evening, overnight. Was my sister wrong? Maybe not, but the expectation placed on me was. Looking back, I don't remember feeling mature. I remember learning responsibility. For some Black girls, that lesson doesn't stop in childhood. It becomes the blueprint they carry into Black womanhood. Starting at school, the study found that skewed school discipline happens for Black girls and it is extremely common. Black girls are more likely to experience exclusionary discipline outcomes for subjective reasons such as disobedience or defiance, detrimental behaviour, and third-degree assault, all of which depend on a subjective judgment by school personnel. That is a direct quote from the study. Even when they act out the same behaviours as their peers, Black girls are punished more harshly. This is an example of the adultification of Black girls from school authorities, leading to a loss of innocence in a place where the same virtue is supposed to be protected. The loss of innocence in places like school and the home leads to Black girls becoming Black women who are conditioned to see their value in how much they can carry, give, or endure. It reflects in our behaviours, in how we support, carry, and dedicate ourselves to holding the community together. One way that this may show up later on in life is in romantic relationships. In The Inheritance of Black Poverty, It's All About Men, researchers found that Black women were economically secure when single rather than when partnered with men. And this research study I will leave the link to in the description box. Now, this study concluded that Black women are more likely to be rooted to poverty, to use their exact words, through these relationships. Now, while the study does not examine the reasons behind this pattern, it raises an important question. What is the responsibility many Black women assume in adulthood, even within their romantic relationships, begins much earlier in the expectations placed upon them as Black girls to be responsible, to carry, and to sacrifice themselves. When how much one can carry and endure becomes an identity, as it has for centuries, or something that women use as a measure of their value, we can see that the primary cost of seeing Black girls as more mature is that they go on to be Black women who repeat the same patterns, who learn less about selfhood and more about usefulness. Women who have been conditioned from girlhood to do more, accept less, and not dare speak about it. She understands love as a transaction between giving and receiving, with her giving and receiving little else outside of her praise for her strength and endurance. When usefulness becomes one's identity individually and how Black women operate as a collective within our culture, the lines are blurred. Expectations become unspoken assumptions about our role within the culture. The outcome, the Black woman begins to question who she is when she's not being useful or helpful or responsible. This is a pattern we must interrupt by asking, what is the real cost been of calling Black girls mature? The protection she offers. The study cites that Black girls are seen as needing less protection, especially at the ages of 10 to 14. How this transfers culturally from Black girlhood to womanhood is in the behaviour patterns of adult Black women. In their independent study, a layered look at domestic violence in the Black community, researchers Corbin Place found that Black women are more likely to underreport abuse in hopes of protecting their abusive or violent Black male partners. The expectation to protect others can become deeply embedded. Girls develop the mindset of obligation to protect their abusers, which is normalizing violence. The cost, then, of seeing Black girls in need of less protection is that the victimizer becomes more protected than the victim. Culture can and will continue to do it if cultural patterns are not recognised or interrupted, especially if she is a darker skinned girl, and especially when the abuse, mistreatment, and devaluing is coming from within the community from all sides, male and female. So, if Malcolm X told us the most underprotected person in America is the Black woman, and that includes from boys and men, and even sometimes other Black women, if Black girlhood teaches us that love is a transaction of giving on her side and receiving nothing but praise or endurance for strength, what is to say that her giving wouldn't involve her body at some point? When inside and outside of the community, people look at Black girls as being more mature, in quotation marks, then the sexual harassment and abuse she must endure rises. She's fast. She thinks she's grown. We've heard it all before. It's not about how a Black girl actually is presenting, but probably more about how she is actually culturally perceived. In Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, which she wrote in 1970, Pecola Breedlove was devalued in society by her mother and sexually abused by her father, all of which went overlooked. Now, was Morrison exaggerating? Depends on who you ask. Depends on what statistics you research and you consult, and it does depend on how honest we are prepared to be as a community. So, doing more and accepting less. The Georgetown study revealed a viewpoint for Black girls needing less comforting, less support, less nurturing, which sits right here within the Black community. Black women will be penalised for having higher standards, expecting more from a romantic connection, and she is often placed in a position to remain loyal to Black men while dating, but just not to expect too much from him because she can and she will provide it, right? When more young Black girls see this behaviour, and less mature Black women, such as myself, and possibly you who are listening to this or reading this, speak out and discourage this, the behavioural pattern will continue to be a cultural expectation. We'll continue to see a cycle of a generation of Black women not being cared for, protected, provided for, or even matched with the best partner, which we have already seen. Until we stop confusing cultural survival, cultural conditioning, and cultural habits or pressure with maturity, Black girls will continue to inherit expectations they never chose and they should not choose. The baton will continue to be passed down the ancestral line, and not as a baton of resilience, but one of overfunctioning, underprotection, and placing loyalty where it should not be. Perhaps then, the question isn't whether Black girls are mature, perhaps it's why we've become so comfortable with expecting her to be. Hey sis, so if you made it this far, then thanks for being here with me. And as you can see, in my view, there is a very clear cost to calling Black girls mature and also to seeing them as more responsible or even expecting them to be more responsible. What do we do? That's the big question. I personally think that this is a pattern in our culture that we really need to start to try and interrupt. I've given some insight into this in what I wrote in the article, but I do think that it largely starts with removing the expectation. You know, society already places this expectation or their expectations on women who are Black and girls who are Black. So within the community, if we can kind of remove this pressure a little bit, it can hopefully, maybe not in my lifetime, I might not live to see it, you know, but maybe in generations to come, this might take away some of that expectation and cost, or I would say pressure, that there is placed on Black girls to perform and overfunction. I also think, if I'm going to be really honest with you, that it is going to take Black women to be very brave about this change that's needed. And imagine I'm taking your hand, okay, as I say this. I'm sitting across from you and I'm going to take your hand. I say this with a lot of love, yeah. I really think that we as Black women, myself included, at one point in my life, we need to kind of take responsibility for how we have allowed ourselves to be swept up in this expectation, this pressure, this responsibility, and going over and above and extending ourselves and not really having a lot of reciprocity from other people, places, situations, and things. I think it's something that we can't really continue to deny has happened to us, our foremothers, and it's something that's deeply culturally ingrained. So when I say, you know, we should think about that, take that as a point of accountability for us, it doesn't mean that I say that Black women are to blame. Not at all. I do not think that we are to blame at all, because when you really break it down, a lot of this boils down to things like history as well. When you think of, you know, what our roles were on the plantation, how we were used on the plantation and how we were viewed on the plantation. And even when we came off of it, you know, the roles that we took on going into work at higher rates. I won't say before, I'll say going into work at higher rates than other races of women or non-Black women, purely because of what was going on for us culturally post-slavery and into things like the global civil rights movement that was happening for Black people at the time. There's a lot of history to it. So it's not as if we can really say, okay, it's all our fault. But what we can do is say, we can think, we can say, okay, cool, this is what's been happening. This is what we can recognize as a pattern. Maybe it's time for us to try and push back a bit on this. That would be my point of view. And we have to try and do it without feeling guilt, you know, because guilt is a big thing for Black women. It's hard for us to say no. It's hard for us to, you know, say, okay, I want to put myself first. It's hard for us to center ourselves. And again, there's so many different layers to why that is. But if we slowly start to try and chip away at these layers, it is my honest belief that in some point in time, like I said, maybe not in my lifetime, maybe not even in yours, depending on how old you are, we might see some kind of change. So that's my honest opinion on that. So before I go, also, I gave you the details at the beginning about where this article was published with Carefree magazine, which is a black magazine, Let me start again, which is a magazine for black women around the diaspora. The editor is a really, really lovely lady. So go and check them out. Go and give them a free subscription, see what they do. And if you're interested in their anthology that is due to come out, last I heard, I believe, my copy was due to be shipped sometime in August. And at the time of me recording this, put my teeth back in, we're approaching the end of July. So I think there's still time to go in and grab a copy if you want one. One more thing I want to share with you as well is don't forget the Notes on Black Women women's circles that happen. If you're not a free subscriber or a subscriber to me on Substack, I would encourage you to come on over, mosey on over and see what goes on over there, because the last Sunday of every month there is a Black Women's Circle held on Zoom. I have done a short little video which I will link up here or maybe here, it will pop up somewhere, on what these women's circles are about. And I'd encourage you to come along. Also, you can follow the Black Women's Circle event page so you'll get a notification when those are live. And it's normally, at the time of me recording this, the last Sunday of every month, and I don't see that really changing for now. So I hope to see you there. So give me your thoughts on this week's essay. What do you think about the viewpoint that this study brought up? What do you think about how other people see black girls? Have you experienced this? You let me know in your comments. I mentioned in the essay myself about me as a young teen and the expectation of me to look after my niece and nephew. Now, it wasn't so much that I was asked, it was about the age I was and the expectation. Have you experienced any of this or anything like this before? You let me know what your views are on this. And by all means, I don't just want to have this conversation with myself and with the camera. So what do you think could be done to help alleviate some of the pressure that black girls have to be mature and to make a cultural shift so that there is not so much pressure on them? You let me know what you think. If you do enjoy this kind of content, why not subscribe? I would love to see you here again. Come and join me on Substack also if you wish to. Do give the video a like, do share it with someone who may enjoy it, and much love to you. I will catch you in the next one.